I'm so sorry about my voice, first of all. So I'm Sehkar from Istanbul Technical University, and I'm specialized in educational sciences. Today, I'm going to present you the results of my scoping review regarding predictive learning analytics. The study is conducted in higher education. So this is the content, as you see here. I will briefly talk about the theoretical background of the issue predictive learning analytics in higher education and the methodology in scoping review, and then my findings and discussion, as you see. So, as you may guess, the predictive learning analytics uses generally data analytics and machine learning, which is very common and popular, as you may guess, after COVID-19. The main aim here is forecast learning outcomes, identify at-risk students, and map how students engage on learning platforms. And these analytics may guide timely actions. So, what is the main motivation of predictive learning analytics? Actually, to improve student retention, success, and equity based on the data provided through predictive models. If you look at from institutional perspectives, we can say that higher education institutions can allocate their resources effectively based on the data provided from predictive learning analytics. So there are a lot of benefits of predictive learning analytics, as you may see. Early identification is possible with the help of the data gathered through these systems, these models. Therefore, personalized support can be provided to the students because of its real-time monitoring with the help of learning management systems. So faculty can apply adaptive teaching systems and provide feedback accordingly. So it provides an institutional optimization, as you see here, through resource planning and retention monitoring. But there are also some challenges and risks in predictive learning analytics. Stability across the models actually is a real problem. Yes, there is the data that can be accurate, but their interpretability is questionable because if the staff is not ready, faculty is not ready how to interpret the data, then it cannot be beneficial. And also models provided by the higher education institutions is also limited to organizational capacity. And another issue is about ethics, because students sometimes unsure about how they can trust their data is actually consented or protects their confidentiality. This is another issue. So what is the aim of this research here? So I have analyzed and synthesized the most influential predictive learning research across their focus methods, their methodology and outcomes. So basically, three research questions were analyzed based on their research focus and methodological approaches and learning outcomes. So two databases were used, and the data was retrieved from Scopus and Web of Science in August 2025. So there was an inclusion criteria. Only the educational research and published between 2020 and 2025 as journal articles written in English language and received more than 20 citations were selected. And for their content check, a decision matrix was applied. So when we look at the selection process, as you may see, these are the numbers of initial screening. So in a total of 1,853 documents, I have included only 21 documents in the scoping review, and they were analyzed based on research focus, their methodological approaches, and reported outcomes. Let's look at the results one by one. The first one is the research focus in these 21 studies. So there are 5 themes occurred, as you may see. The majority of the studies were actually on student performance prediction, as you may see. Dropout and retention were also investigated through modeling attrition and withdrawal risk and persistence in some of the studies. Engagement and learning behaviors were also examined by these studies and through their interaction patterns based on the data gathered from learning management systems, and also affective dimensions were also investigated. Another theme of this as the research focus, acute access and student agency were investigated through consent, trust, and disparities in data use and access. There are only 3 studies indicating these issues, actually. Also, pedagogical and institutional applications also were also examined through using predictive learning analytics to guide teaching, course design, student support, and some policy decisions. Regarding the second research questions, among these 21 studies, which methodological approaches were applied? So the majority of studies applied machine learning models as a quantitative approach. So advanced algorithms were used on learning management systems or clickstream or institutional data. So these are very common as quantitative designs. But also statistical models, traditional statistical models were also used as a quantitative approach in some of the studies, as you may see, such as logistic regression, correlation, experimental or quasi-experimental designs, distinct from advanced machine learning models. We can also see qualitative approaches like document analysis, interviews, or focus groups, or teacher and student perceptions were also analyzed. And the last category for this research question is mixed methods, as you may guess. These are combining predictive models or other quantitative analysis with qualitative insights. And these are the studies including mixed method approach. As the last research question, so what we have got actually from all these studies, when we look at the outcomes of these studies, we can say that there are 4 outcomes as teams can reveal. The first one is accuracy and effectiveness of models. So as you see here, the majority of predictive learning analytics studies in higher education were analyzed or were tested based on their predictive performance and their feasibility of early identification. Another theme as an outcome category, we can see insights into students' behaviors were revealed based on engagement patterns, time use, and activity types, which are linking to motivation or anxiety. Outcome category number 3 is only 2 studies, as you see here. Identification of at-risk learners. So the number of at-risk learners are not much, are not many, but there is a percentage. So some actionable indicators and timing for targeted support were investigated in these studies. And finally, pedagogical and institutional implications were revealed in these studies, such as guidance for teaching, course design, student support, governance, ethics, and policy designs. So, to conclude, actually, what we have in the end. So, performance and retention as a research focus remained central among these studies. And engagement equity also has some diverse perspectives in these studies. There are also some engagement studies connecting with interaction traces and dashboard use in relation to achievement and their effect. Equity and student agency generally were also the common research focus I have identified in these studies. So regarding the methodology, machine learning models actually were used a lot through or on making analysis on large data sets. But there is a transparency and stability need. Yes, there needs a transparency and stability checks in these studies actually as a gap or limitation. And there are also some statistical models, but however, the interpretability is limited to only smaller samples compared to machine learning models. Yes, in mixed methods, there are some links between predictions and content and action in learning in higher education. So when we look at the research outcomes in general, we can say that high accuracy were commonly found in these studies, but institutional scale-ups were found useful in terms of governance and teaching and learning issues. However, ethical considerations are still limited and essential as the output of these studies in general. So actually, priorities should be given to connect predictions, learning predictions to timely, transparent actions with safeguards. So what are the implications then we get from this study actually? We need designs for actions actually. So who are the actors? What is the timing? What is the evidence? So what outcomes will be gathered and how can we use it as higher education practitioners or administrators? And transparent, auditable models are necessary because we cannot very basically use predictions. So if you have the predictions, but it does not easily translate into actions or support. So there is another issue that we need to deal with in terms of pedagogy and also some practicality. Equity and privacy is also considered or to be embedded into these systems because students should feel trust in terms of their institutional practices. And we need more than the algorithm. So we have the data based on predictions, but we also need some staff development, tutor protocols, which data can be shared, which cannot be, And what about the assessment procedure? So when we get data based on predictive learning analytics as faculty, what should we do with that? So we need to be guided through interpretable indicators. So of course, for future studies, we need some more experimental or strong observational designs. So there are also some limitations of this study, as you may see, based on the inclusion criteria and also based on the context, because several implementations from a few institutions, and this may limit the transferability, as you may see. And this is a very fast-moving field. So because I have included the publications, received more than 20 citations, some of them, some practice-based innovations may be underrepresented. So to conclude, I can say, as you see here, to conclude, predictive learning analytics is technically viable and shifting towards questions of use, impact, and responsibility. But the field is getting broadened beyond prediction to engagement, equity, and governance. So we need more pedagogical and practical approaches. And how can we direct faculty based on the data from predictive learning analytics of their students? So what is the next could be as a future recommendation? So predictions should be connected with transparent actions, because algorithms are very complex and may not be transparent for the most of the time. And institutions must design safeguards that make their students trust their data, and modeling choices must be done based on educational purposes, depending on each course design or each departmental need. And these are my references. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I would like to answer them.